What's going on, everybody? If you can see, I got a little bit of my own Big Evil, Big Kev, Big Evil right here. This is going to be uncensored. This is going to be unattached because I want to let people know something about me. Okay? I love the professional wrestling business. I respect the men and women who have paved the way. So I and friends that I have trained in the past have had chances to be a wrestler, not a sports entertainer, a goddamn wrestler. I when I've you know when I look at the legends, I look at Bruno Sammartino, the longest reigning wrestling WWF champion of all time, 2,800 something days as champion. But yet there's people that think that Roman Reigns' title run is big. It's not big. It's not big. And the thing that really bothers me is everybody knows how much The Undertaker is a part of my life. The Undertaker is one of the guys that I have looked up to my entire career, my entire life. You want to talk about wrestling? You want to talk about like pain and stuff like that? Look at this. Look at this right here. From football and wrestling, I have no fucking feeling in this goddamn finger. I have messed up my nose quite a bit. My tooth right here got pushed back. I have a bad left knee. I have a bad back. And I have bled a few times. See this like blade job right here? Yeah. I have worked my ass off for those couple years that I actually was wrestling in the ring. I have seen injuries that will make you sick. And I'm going to tell you something else. I saw this video. I don't have a problem with these guys personally. But when I saw this video, it made me sick. It pissed me off. And when you pissed off this 600, you pissed off this 6'2", 6'1", 300-pound silverback, that is not a good thing. Because now it's time to unleash something. You want to know something about Undertaker? Let me tell you something about Undertaker. Undertaker's had an orbit bone injury. Wrestlers in the past, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, have talked about Undertaker when he broke his ribs. Instead of putting a brace there, he used telephone books to tape around his ribs. The Undertaker has had concussions. The Undertaker has had all these kinds of injuries. And the match in particular, they're talking about, well, I saw the one with Roman Reigns and WrestleMania and this and that. Okay, let me explain something. If you have the WWE Network or if you have Peacock, The Undertaker's Last Ride documentary, one of the best documentaries that I have seen in a very long time. And I'm not saying that because I'm an Undertaker fan. I'm saying it because it's facts. I'm saying it because it's facts. The Undertaker he was out of shape at that point. He had a really bad hip injury. He shouldn't have been in that ring with Roman. He's admitted that. But he went out there and he redeemed himself. He had a good match with John Cena. He had a good match with him and Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre and Shane McMahon. We could talk about that debacle at Saudi Arabia with Goldberg and with DX and the Brothers of Destruction, whatever. But Saudi Arabian people, they care about professional wrestling. They don't care if a wrestler is 500 years old. All they cared about is the nostalgia. With every wrestling event that I've ever been to, when I've seen The Undertaker, it has been special. There's nothing like seeing The Undertaker come into that ring. Nothing. So when I see two people come on here and completely, no, not really two, but one in particular, who's too big for her britches, comes on here and makes a mockery of The Undertaker. Not only The Undertaker, but makes a mockery of Shawn Michaels, makes a mockery of Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know, if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan and the Golden Era, if it wasn't for Vince McMahon purchasing the WWE from his father, putting that belt on Hulk Hogan, none of us would have a job right now. None of us would be wrestling. You wouldn't be making money right now. You understand? So you need to be a little bit more respectful to the people who have paved the way for people like you to have a business in the first place. They always say respect your elders. That's how I was taught here in the South. I don't know how everybody else is taught, but I've been taught to respect your elders. And I have a huge problem with this because I don't normally go like this. I'm not normally like this, but Mel could tell you from step point of view. When you shit on professional wrestling and you shit on the indie wrestlers and you shit on people who have been there, who have busted their ass, who have broken their bodies, they have busted, they bled, sweat, and tears. I have a huge problem with that because I look at those guys as my brothers. It's a brotherhood in professional wrestling. And if you don't believe me, ask the people who are professional wrestlers that are with your company in the first place. There is a brotherhood that y'all don't seem to understand about professional wrestling. Me and Mel is doing wrestling for 15 years, doing custom videos, doing this, doing that. So we know the ins and outs of business. I know the custom side and I know the professional wrestling side. If I wanted to, I can recreate a business myself and be fine. But that's not how I am. That's not who she is. That's not how we are. I have a huge problem when someone comes up and yes, this is my Cherokee Viking temper coming out here. I'm going to play this video. And I don't know if I should play the video or should wait for the guys to come in because there's a couple of guys who want to join me on here and they got some stuff to say. If they want to come, and they got the link if they want to come in here. But I'm going to tell you right now, what I'm about to play really, really irked me, and I'm not causing drama. These people are not bad people, personally. I don't got a problem with them. But when you do something this, and excuse me for my English, when you do something this stupid, I have a huge problem with it. Let's see here. Share the screen. Okay. Right here. Let me stop right here.
Oh, let's hope not.
He's going to be there, bro. He's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. I do know that for sure.
I mean, that's fine. He can induct himself, but he should never step back foot in a ring on WrestleMania or any other live event ever. No offense, Undertaker, but your time has come to not wrestle anymore because nobody wants to see it.
Yeah. After the debacle in Saudi, when he almost got dropped on his head.
And babe, that one of the first matches that I've seen of him was him versus Roman. I think it was at a WrestleMania, and it was so bad. It was so bad. I'm like, you're gonna tell me this is like one of your favorite wrestlers of all time? Like, this is a joke. Like, this is embarrassing. Like, these motherfuckers are too funny.
Okay. The Undertaker. Well, I say The Undertaker has stepped over his time. Undertaker's admitted that. We all as wrestling fans understand it, but Undertaker is like fucking royalty. It's something you don't shit on. There's a cardinal rule in professional wrestling. You don't shit on it. You want to join in posting, you can, man. I don't know. But when you sit there and you talk about the first match you ever saw is with Undertaker versus Roman Reigns, which was WrestleMania 33. WrestleMania 33. The Undertaker was severely hurt, and he had to go and take surgery. He had to go redo his body. He had to go redo his body. He had to get his body up and running. Do you not? I mean, you guys have a ring. You guys should understand the injuries come with the territory. But Undertaker, being a tough son of a bitch that he is, and that's true. And they did say that in the video that the reason why Undertaker doesn't come back is because they don't have no one to draw. But also WrestleMania is a very special time. People come back for nostalgia for that WrestleMania moment. I get it. But when you talk shit about the Undertaker, it's a real huge fucking problem for me. I have a huge problem. When you basically go in there and you say, the Undertaker is going into the Hall of Fame. Will deserve Hall of Fame. He has every right to be in that Hall of Fame. He should have been in the Hall of Fame already. And yes, Undertaker has overstepped his time. But you know what he did? He put his body back. He put his body on the line for people like this. What's up, Poston?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw this and I was like, what the hillbilly fuck is this? But yeah, I mean, I watched it and yeah, the deal is nobody can draw. I mean, nobody can draw, and I think part of the problem is that everybody is their own biggest mark in professional wrestling today. That's one of the biggest fucking problems in the business is that nobody's willing to put anybody over. Everybody wants to try to outperform and outsell everybody and position themselves higher than what most of them should be in the roster. You've worked on the E-Feds before. I've done the E-Feds for you. And this is no different here on the internet than it is in the E-Feds and it is in backstage apparently. In these, this is why A&W is not going to go anywhere. It's because everybody is their own biggest mark. And so you try to appease somebody or you try to appease these people. Like me, whenever I was in these E-Feds, whenever I was in your E-Fed, I don't think I ever won a championship in your E-Fed, and I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a biggie for me. It was, trying to, I would get with like A-Train, and I would develop some sort of feud that we could have to bring in attention to your E-Fed. And it was the same thing with Dark Horse. You had real people out there getting upset over, a title on an E-Fed. It was a title on an E-Fed. Just think about it. It was an E-Fed, all right? And I got a title. I got a mid-card title in Dark Horse's E-Fed. But it wasn't the main title. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll be willing to go ahead and do the little gimmicky title thing for you. Nobody wants to be the Santino Morellas. You know what I'm saying? And be that. Nobody wants to be the Disco Infernos. Everybody thinks that they're the Stone Cold and the Rock. And basically, you have a bunch of marks taking over the business right now. And this is the problem. And we'll get into this because I know that they go into it a little bit. And there's one part of this video that I found totally fucking hilarious. But I'll let you go on with that.
Well, let me ask you this, Poston. And this is something that me and you, we grew up in that golden era. We grew up in the territory area. So me and you have learned to respect the guys who came in and were actually professional wrestlers, like the Von Erichs and like, the Steve Austins, the Ric Flairs and everything like
Harley
that.
Race.
Race.
Bruiser Brody. You can go on and on with the legends out there. Luthez, Bruno Sammartino, which is mentioned in this video clearly, but and we've seen the professional guys. Yeah, you're right. You got the Von Erichs, the Ric Flairs, the Four Horsemen. Yeah, we've seen all them guys, man.
Let me ask, I know that you might have been. I don't know if you ever been to any wrestling shows, but as a kid, I saw the Undertaker back then when he was that Mortician Undertaker. I've seen a lot of his entrances, and it's something it's hard to describe Undertaker's entrance unless you've been there live, unless you've seen it. It's one of those things that you talk about, and there's a brotherhood in wrestling, because I know me and you have a brotherhood with, the attitude, with the, with TNA, and we had a brotherhood with the whole, territories. We think that wrestling should go back to these territories, and when I see people like this, and I'm not trying to say they're not bad people, but when you basically live your own gimmick and you live in your own mind as this greatest thing that ever happened, when the only reason why it's the greatest thing that ever happened is because your husband runs the damn company, and that's the reason why you have the belt in the first place.
Yeah, and I see that a lot too. And like I said, I get it. I get it. A lot of people, and apparently I think that they're probably really serious about wanting to. I think that if they were offered an opportunity in, say, like AEW wrestling or Impact Wrestling, they would probably jump at the opportunity.
Yeah.
I think that they would, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing you for that, but when you look at it, first off, whenever you're talking about the territories and a lot of these guys that got built, right? They just didn't randomly go in and, I watched, what's that movie about Paige? What's that called? Fighting with My Family? I think
Fighting with My Family, yep.
Okay, I watched that movie, and the stuff that they were using in that movie, I was just kind of like rolling my eyes a little bit, because everything is kind of synthetic. It's kind of like a celebrity boot camp almost, to a degree. And there's not really wrong with putting in that effort into the gym. But whenever you were looking at wrestling that me and Kev grew up with, it was an economy. It wasn't just, we're going to push you because we think you're a star, kid. And that's how Vince McMahon kind of treats the business. But if you were, say, wanting to get into the professional wrestling, let's say Kevin is a professional wrestler. He wants to get into the business. He says, well, he couldn't break in, let's say, in the Tennessee market, right? So he comes down to Dallas, Texas. Well, guess what? I live in Dallas, Texas. I'm a booker. I work in the business. I work for the Von Erichs. He couldn't find a job up in Tennessee. So he comes down to Texas. He runs into me, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I've been looking for a guy similar to you, a bigger guy that I could come in and push the feud with the Von Erichs. We need to go ahead and work on an identity for you. And that would be that booker's whole job, almost like an agent, to get the professional wrestling. And you didn't just have one booker in the area. You had a lot of people that were booking in the area that would try to get these talents over. That was their whole job, was to make sure that they succeeded in ring and try to get the biggest paycheck that they could, because they would get a percentage out of it. So they knew that they had to try and get you the biggest matches that they could and get you the most publicity that they could. And that's how the territories work. If he couldn't make it here in Dallas, he may go to Georgia. If he couldn't make it in Georgia, he may go to Missouri. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's going to find a spot on their roster. And as soon as he got in, guys like Bruiser Brody, guys like the Von Erichs were kind of probably not the enforcers as much as Bruiser Brody was.
Yeah.
They were the party guys. But you had the guys like Bruiser Brody, Terry Funk. Those guys would be kind of like the enforcers that were in there. Jimmy Garvin and stuff. That's what they would do, is they would, go ahead and make sure that you were prepared. You were talking about The Undertaker, and you can go back and listen to The Undertaker's podcast, where The Undertaker said, you know what? He was a green rookie. He made a rookie mistake in the ring, and Bruiser Brody made him pay for it. Yep. And he did that on a podcast. And he was humble enough to go ahead and accept that he was green. And this is probably one of the biggest wrestlers in the modern era. Certainly, more people are familiar with him than, say, an Austin Theory or somebody else that these people just inorganically get behind in today's audience. It's not authentic. It's not organic. You just get behind these people and try to get synthetic interest into it. And whenever you're looking at the casual fans, I'm not watching Austin Theory. I'm not watching Darby Allin. That doesn't, if Darby Allin gets over, it's because I'm tuning in to see a Hulk Hogan. I'm tuning in to see an Undertaker. I'm tuning in to see a Stone Cold. I'm tuning in to see The Rock. I'm tuning in to see Triple H. That's what I'm tuning in to see. I'm not tuning in to see Darby Allin. Darby Allin gets his viewership and he gets his followings and he gets his fans based on what The Undertaker brings in, based on what Stone Cold brings in, based on what Hulk Hogan is bringing in. So you can go ahead and crap all you want to and claim how much overrated they are. You know what I'm saying? And saying that, oh, yeah, I didn't like Hulk Hogan, but I liked the Von Erichs. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like Hulk Hogan. Go ahead.
People don't know this, Poston, but John Cena.
Yeah. He's a good friend of mine, and he won't shut the fuck up about, me doing a video or whatnot and saying I better sell all the time,
Well, I mean, I'm sure if John Cena was free, I'm sure he would wrestle for the wrestling show, and I'm pretty sure he would want Kate to give the Galactic Championship to him.
Yeah, immediately. Yeah. I talked to him. Maybe you can get John Cena on here and do an interview with him. Probably next week. He's kind of a busy guy. He's probably he's probably trying to film another fucking film that like he always calls me, dude. He always calls me, and then he'll call me at work, and then he'll sit there and say he was upset with me about something that I said that he disagreed with about professional, and he'll sit there and yammer on. It's like, dude, I don't get to fucking sit around and call people all fucking day long. I'm at work right now. What the hell do you want? Get to the point. If you can't tell me, I gotta hang up. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I remember you bringing Cena on my old shows before, and he's a trip. I mean, he's really dynamic. Like, a lot of people don't know that about John Cena, but he's very like.
I'm gonna tell you right now, for anybody who's watching this video, right now, that maybe if John Cena is nothing like he is in the WWE, whenever he's on these little podcasts. He's man, I'm telling you, that dude is nothing like what he makes to believe and stuff like that. Whenever he's around me or Kev, he's not like that. I'm gonna let you know right now before you think that, oh, John Cena's gonna come out here. Whoa, I'm Make-A-Wish shit. No, he's not like that in behind the cameras. He's not. And in fact, I think he may have some issues. I really think that the man has issues.
Well, I remember when you told me to come to Texas and try to train with Cena. I didn't think that he would be that vicious.
Yeah, I mean, the dude is. I'm like, bro, come on, man. And he just since when? How long has was it 2013 or 2020? Yeah, it was 2013, I think, is whenever I met John Cena for the first time. And I'm like, oh God, he was a big fan of my YWC videos, I think.
Well, here's the thing too. These two, I mean, Matt's only watched wrestling until about the Attitude Era. So when they were talking about Bruno Sammartino, they didn't really sit there and say very. He only watched until about the Attitude Era. He only watched it until about the Attitude Era. And I mean, like, they watched the network and everything like that, but that's about. I mean, that's about it. And then they were talking about Roman Reigns and how Brock's going to be the unified champion. And
well, like, I did the math, right? And they were like, oh yeah, Roman Reigns, you were sitting there saying, I don't think I got that far in the video, but they were saying that Roman Reigns has a longer title run than Bruno Sammartino. Even if you did to go ahead and divide it by 4, that's still 711 days for Bruno Sammartino. So Roman Reigns still has about, 211 more days before he even can be considered breaking Bruno Sammartino's record.
What I'm looking at here, Bob Backlund had like 1,800 days. Hogan had 1,800 days. So yeah, if you do the math, Roman's nowhere near the.
They're basing that off of CM Punk's. You remember CM Punk's promo where he was sitting there saying, "My whatever, how many ever days that he was champion, I forgot how many it was, that would be equal to Bruno Sammartino's run." No, because you had to divide it by 4. Even if you're going to be fair, you'd have to divide it by 4, and that's still nowhere close to what Bruno Sammartino would have had.
So later on in this video, after this they go in and they start talking about Shawn Michaels and how he should have never came back during the Saudi match, and then and Matt was actually trying to be like, hey man, what if Shawn faced AJ Styles, and then she was like, well, he needs to stay retired too, and not only that, there's the rumor going on in Texas that Austin's going to come out of retirement and face Kevin Owens, and then she's like, well, he needs to stay retired too. The only one that's done really good is Edge, and I'm sitting there thinking, do we not understand? This is
wrestling. I had to sigh.
What's that?
I said I had to sigh. I had to sigh at that last comment. The only one that, what she was saying is kind of like cringy.
Yeah, hold on. I'll play it here. Hold on a minute so everybody doesn't see it. Hey, what's up, Andre? Mr. Cobil's in the house.
Oh,
you're right.
To still be out here trying to do this. Like,
You're definitely right.
Sorry. Just like, even question Goldberg sometimes. It's like, bro, are you sure this is alright? But whatever.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta put the dinosaurs on display to get people to come to the museum.
Yeah, and like Undertaker's just too old, Like fucking Edge, like he hasn't missed his stuff, but he's fucking fine. But Undertaker, no, bro.
Yeah, I don't know who Edge is fighting at WrestleMania, but it should be somebody good. Hopefully he does. I've seen AJ Styles sign another contract to stay with wrestling, so hopefully AJ Styles fights against Shawn Michaels. I know it's like a dream match that we'll never get, but that'll do what
Shawn Michaels shouldn't either. Remember that fucking match when Shawn Michaels and Triple H were there doing whatever? It was so bad.
It was bad. If they would have booked it to be just Shawn against anybody, it would have been fine though. So they tried to mix all those other characters into this match, Shawn's comeback match.
Kate acts hungover, man. She's like, oh. I think she may be a little hungover in this video. I'm just going to point that out.
They're on something there because, I'm looking at this and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, who in the hell would not want a Shawn Michaels AJ Styles match? People don't realize how fucking good AJ Styles really is. And we know it because we follow TNA.
Yeah. AJ, we've been on that bandwagon for a while.
Yeah. And for them to say that about Austin, here's the thing. Do I think Austin should have came out of retirement and done one last match with someone better than Kevin Owens? He had opportunities. In 2005, he had an opportunity with Hogan. He said no. And he had an opportunity with Punk. He said no. He had an opportunity at WrestleMania 32 with Brock, and he said no. But we all know in this day and age, man, money talks, bullshit walks.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, man. The one thing that Stone Cold will get is a reaction,
Yep.
And nobody's going to be like, wins. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. And so, you look at it, it's in Texas. The roof people would have a fucking conniptions, and it's going to get ratings if Austin comes back. The show will instantly get up to about 3 million, maybe, 3.5 million views. People are going to be watching it.
Well, I know that Kate on there is a big Charlotte Flair fan. I don't know if you guys ever watched TNA, but Charlotte Flair couldn't hold a candle to Tessa Blanchard. I'm just gonna throw that out there right now.
No. And I mean, I respect her father. I respect everything that her father did for the business. Whenever I look at the Divas Revolution or whatever it is now, women's whatever it is. First off, the everything is kind of like dumbed down to the lowest common denominator in WWE anyways. The Impact Wrestling, female wrestling is fucking so far ahead. WWE could probably never catch up. I know that they did some interesting stuff with Alexa Bliss, giving her the Rosemary gimmick and whatnot. But anybody who watches professional wrestling that just doesn't watch it for WWE, they understood where that gimmick originated from, and it originated from Impact. So, I mean,
Big Remington's in the house. He pretty much is saying no. How is a nobody wrestler going to talk crap about the legendary Undertaker? Undertaker was amazing for his size.
Yeah, and like I said, that's what they know him as anyways. You know what I'm saying? I remember the Undertaker as Texas Red.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's whenever he was fighting real guys. You know what I'm saying? He went through the territory. He paid his dues. You know what I'm saying? He had to overcome adversity to get where he was. A lot of these independent guys, it's funny because I watched The Undertaker on Joe Rogan, and he's like, yeah, they're back there playing video games and shit. Yeah, that wouldn't have been me back in the days. I wouldn't have been back there playing fucking a fucking Atari back there with Bruiser Brody trying to get ready for my match. That shit wouldn't have happened. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's all this kind of cynical way that these guys look at the business, these independent guys come into the business, and then they cry when their product isn't as good as what we grew up with. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing, though. When I did the independent wrestling from 2001 to 2004, were there guys on there who have been in there for a long time and they treated you like crap because you're the new guy? Absolutely. But I took the hazing. I took everything that was given to me. I took receipts and I gave receipts back. And the one thing I will honestly say, though, is I always respected the guys that were there before me, even though I knew that they were old dogs. I always had respect for people that have been there and done it before me. And when I look at professional wrestling as a whole, not sports entertainment, not this old bullshit that we see. When I look at actual professional wrestling, that would be like people shitting on Sting and saying, well, Sting shouldn't be in AEW. Sting's one of the best things about AEW right now.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the only things that drew any kind of interest into AEW wrestling in the first place is because of Sting. Dare I say, did they not bring in fucking CM Punk just because CM Punk can do really cool indie moves alone, right? Yeah, nobody was sitting there caring about fucking CM Punk coming out of ROH, but after he dropped a fucking pipe bomb promo on John Cena, now people understand he has made his presence felt on professional wrestling. So, I mean, there's a reason why these guys are brought in. And like I said, I wouldn't consider CM Punk Sting at all. Sting, had a longevity inside of being a franchise guy for WCW, and he did it very successfully. You know what I'm saying?
And what's interesting? You know what's interesting too, Post, and I was saying before you came on, and I know Remington's talking about this thing with Undertaker in the comment section, but what they don't realize about Taker, and Kevin Nash has told this story, Scott Hall's told this story, Bret Hart's told this story. There was a time when they were on tour and they were gone for, and this is around the time back then where they would do 2 shows a night. And Undertaker had broke his ribs. He couldn't get no pads or anything like that. That motherfucker taped the fucking phone books on his ribs and went out there and performed. and doing that dead man gimmick with broken leg, with broken ribs.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I mean, when I, and that's one of the reasons why he was one of my idols growing up. When I played football, when I played wrestling, anytime I was hurt, I was like, look, tape my ass up. Let's do it. I'm ready. Let's go. I mean, you paid a price afterwards? Yeah. And Undertaker's broken his body for so long. I mean, he's got an orbit bone injury. He's torn, his chest muscle. He's torn the ACL. He's broken his nose. He's had another orbit bone. He's had 2 hip surgeries, 2 knee replacements. The list can go on and on what Undertaker has been through.
Yeah. And I mean, it would be different if these guys, if this was saying, coming from one of his, the Undertaker, let's say, it was Shawn Michaels, right? Saying this about the Undertaker. I'm not the biggest Shawn Michaels fan in the world, but let's say it was Shawn Michaels coming out saying, I think Mark should retire. He's already had all these issues and stuff like that. He should just enjoy it. That would be different. But whenever you got a couple of guys trying to do an indie fed and market off of that, which, I mean, let's be real, there's not the same amount of interest in professional wrestling today as there was back then. For them to come out and say it, that's something entirely different. If The Undertaker was to come out of retirement and was to step back in the ring, people are going to watch it. People watch every segment. It doesn't even matter if the guy can go like he used to. It was what the man did before is the reason why you even have the remedial audience, not the remedial audience, but the marginalized audience, I guess is what you'd say. The marginalized audience that you have today. You know what I'm saying? And that audience is shrinking more and more as the wrestlers feel like they're entitled to our interest. And you're not. I get it. You go out there, you take real bumps, you take real injuries. You know what I'm saying? I understand that. That's a career choice that you make. However, you cannot make people interested into your character. You can't make people interested into what you're doing at the time. That has to come organically from, the fan base. And if you're, if you don't understand, if one of these guys, right, gets over, right, any one of them, pick one, whoever, is in this wrestling show, if they get over, you know what I'm saying? And this is where WWE shoots themselves in the foot all the time. You'll have one guy get over, and then all of a sudden the rest of the guys start complaining. Oh, well, I could do that too. Or am I still here? Okay. Yeah. I could do that too.
When the way they run the business, they run it like they're the only ones that have the championships. And there are some people on their roster who are fucking phenomenal. And it's always the title on them, because they have this, acrorism, and they have like other websites that they post their videos on. So they basically base it on what those fans want instead of what the fans of what fans of actual wrestling want.
Right. And that's one of the issues. Like, I'm subscribed to them because I know that you were, in good with them, and I know you planned on working with them. But to be honest with you, I didn't watch a lot. And right. I mean, you understand why I'm not as interested as I used to be, because I have been in this group for so long.
Yeah.
I have been in this circle for so long. I've done my share of trying to contribute and help people out, not, necessarily saying just, you, but other people out with e-feds and stuff, and having it blow up, putting in an effort and then it blowing up into my face. So it's like, and I mean, it wasn't a big deal. It's just, you start trying to help people and you put in this effort and stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, we're it's going to blow up, or somebody's going to get upset, and then it's all going to collapse, where it's just like, it's going to be kind of a hard pass for me now at this point.
I want to ask, Remington, I know you saw the video. I don't know, did you see the part where they were talking about Austin posting or no?
Yeah, well, you're talking about where he's was going to fight Kevin Owens and stuff like that, and yeah, I seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing. when I see something like that, and I'm like, they're going to be in Dallas, Texas. They had 100,000 people in WrestleMania 32. They're obviously going to want to beat that. And how are you going to beat that? By having Undertaker be in the Hall of Fame in Texas. How are you going to beat that more? You got to have Stone Cold involved.
Yeah, yeah. This is why they bring back the Von Erichs for Dallas, Texas. You know what I'm saying? Because they're Texas guys. They're Texas legends. And people are going to come out and support them because they are Texans. You know, it would be the same thing as if they went to Missouri. You know, it'd be Ric Flair, Harley Race. You know what I'm saying? These guys would be the guys that they would be promoting and you know, paying homage to.
That's not the only video I've seen where she's dissed wrestling. She's dissed the indie wrestlers. And yes, they have a story behind that because apparently they did a show with some indie wrestlers and they were the main event and the indie wrestlers got pissed and stuff like that. And rightfully so, because you guys are on YouTube and these guys have been in the ring for 10, 15 years. So obviously they have a reason to be upset. You know, and that's one thing that that bothered me when I heard her basically shit talk wrestling and basically talk about how no one could do it better than she can, this and that. I'm telling you right now, there's no woman that I've seen pound for pound that has fought a man intergender wrestling. There's no better intergender wrestling match, and I think you agree with me on this, Poston, than Tessa Blanchard and I think and Sami Callihan.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, as far as like the intergender matches, you know my fucking proclivities on intergender matches anyway.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So whenever that's one of the issues I have with Impact. That's one of the issues I have with Impact is the intergender matches. And do I believe that women belong in a ring with men? Absolutely not. However, there are those few exceptions to the rules. And this is one of the reasons why you shouldn't have the intergender matches. Because when you have a Chyna, when you have a Tessa Blanchard that can go in, put on these matches, that makes me respect them as women. Whenever you have the Bunny or whatever Allie is, or you have an Allison Kay that has no business being in a ring with Bobby Lashley, demanding a match with Bobby Lashley, well, I'm going to look at you and think that I'm going to think that this is a joke. I'm going to think that this is a big freaking and I mean I don't understand what audience you think you're going to bring in with that. I'm going to sit there and look at it and say, you know, I'm just not a big fan of it. And the reason why is it wouldn't matter. Even if you were going to build Allison Kay up to be the biggest female, that hurts Tessa Blanchard. You know what I'm saying? Because Tessa Blanchard belonged in her match. She put in the work and the effort to go ahead and be in the ring with Sami Callihan as a female to get me to watch it. You know, so she deserves that. But if you're going to go ahead and just say, yeah, women, you know, intergender matches should be the norm, well, then that takes away from that moment that Tessa Blanchard or that Chyna did whenever she won the Intercontinental Championship. You're not helping the women that are probably not meant to be in a ring with female men wrestlers. You're hurting the guy wrestlers. So even if, like, say, Allison Kay was to get in and beat Bobby Lashley, and hopefully she wouldn't beat him clean, but if she were to beat Bobby Lashley, I would probably think, I'm not watching this crap anymore. It would just insult my intelligence altogether. And so, yeah, I don't believe that the intergender thing, this is one of the things that kind of kills off the independent scene. It really does.
I agree with Andre, too. Awesome Kong was another person who I feel like could actually have, like, matches with men. And
there was this time, right, where you had Rockstar Spud on the roster, right? And here's what I would have done. I would have had a storyline where, you know, somehow something happened and Awesome Kong fell head over heels for Rockstar Spud. And Rockstar Spud's in this match and he's having to face somebody like Bobby Lashley. And whenever Bobby Lashley is beating the hell out of Rockstar Spud, have Awesome Kong come in and do something and then help Rockstar Spud win the title and just have her come in and beat whatever opponent. She would come in and she would aid Rockstar Spud because that would be her man and whatnot. And you could give him a little title run as a gimmick run, and Awesome Kong would be believable enough to be that female that could come in and legitimately take out a male wrestler. So yeah, he's right. I had thought about. I don't think about her because she hasn't wrestled in so long. But yeah, I would agree with that. You know,
And
but that's what that's meant for.
And what's even worse though is, and you've been in the E-Fed world, I've been in the E-Fed world, so we understand this. But their booking mentality is like an E-Fed world. It's like, we're going to barely put the belt on you, then we're going to take it away, and then we're going to put it on her because of her assets. And I'm sitting there thinking, and that's kind of like how E-Feds were, because they're like, where's my shot? When do I get my belt? When do I do this? And you went through it. I went through it. We know. And that booking mentality is, it doesn't benefit everybody else on the roster. It only benefits them.
Right. And you look at a person like, I think, Insane Courtney Peterson, I think that was her name, that you fought on here. You look at her character, right? That's a lot of character development that she puts into it, and she very rarely breaks kayfabe. That's a talent right there. So that should be considered. This is, somebody that's going to bring in interest. Do you solely want to keep the title on her for an extended, for a year or so? No, absolutely not. You hope somebody else can come in and get developed. But if I'm going to watch your show, I'm going to want to watch the most intriguing people on it. I'm going to want to see on your video, oh, wow, this chick is really fucking crazy. Wow, she's really out there. And that's going to draw me in. Not just, somebody that's out there. It's, kind of like somebody off of, the Jerry Springer show. That's my baby. Yeah, and who's the baby's daddy type shit. That just, and I know that Vince Russo has had, those angles in TNA, but who's the daddy and whatever. But that doesn't really communicate with me at all as a wrestling fan.
I'm surprised I haven't seen a condom on a pole match yet on there.
Oh Lord, you're gonna give them ideas, huh?
I'm gonna say, hey, I've heard from the grapevine they like to steal ideas from their other wrestlers, and that sucks that they do that. Now one of the reasons why that I decided to step away, and I'm gonna announce it on here live, is I got tired of the drama that was going on behind the scenes. I didn't want to be a part of it. And I got nothing against them personally. Like, this is not really a personal attack. It's just that when you are attacking the business and you're attacking stuff that I grew up with, and you're attacking stuff that I loved, and you're attacking a guy like Undertaker, you're attacking a guy like Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, if it wasn't for guys like Austin and Undertaker, you would not have a platform to do the wrestling that you do today.
Yep. And that's ultimately why the wrestling is dying off too, is because everybody wants to be Hulk Hogan, but not everybody's Hulk Hogan. Whenever there is a Hulk Hogan that comes into the business, what happens? Everybody gets together, they gang up on him, and they shit on him. And they try to put up their, more geriatric type freaking, placebos up as being equal. There was a point in this video where they said that Roman Reigns was champion for 500 days. And this is the deal with the Bruno Sammartino thing that we mentioned. But then she goes on and says this should be Matt Riddle. What are you thinking? Do you actually think that Matt Riddle's going to all of a sudden bring in ratings over a guy like Roman Reigns? No, it's absolutely going to go the opposite way. And Roman Reigns is that guy that could be pushed. Bobby Lashley is that guy that is legitimate, that could be pushed, that could get an interest into your company. But the sheer fact that you people turn on those guys, and then you want to sit there and say, oh, well, they don't do backflips, I guess, for the most part, that's what professional wrestling is. Clearly, they've never done any kind of real, like fucking football drills where you had to do real wrestling. And let me tell you, that's not real. I've had to do those kind of drills and whatnot. This isn't real wrestling. Doing backflips and that's gymnastics. You know what I'm saying? That's not actual wrestling. If it was actual wrestling, because you claim that you're real wrestling fans, you wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't even watch it. Hell, you know what I'm saying? And I know Big Kev, he's played football. You had to do the wrestling drills and stuff like that. I've had to do them. It's just something that you would have to do if you were in any kind of sports. But this sure as fuck ain't real wrestling.
And and here's the thing too. When I did do my football training, I was lucky to have a football coach that used to be a drill sergeant in the Marines. And I actually, when I trained and I did my 2-a-days in my training camp, I was doing drills that military people had to do. And that toughened us up. And I had to do that during the wrestling. My first ever training in the ring, it was the heart of the summer, and they decided to turn the air conditioner off and try to see which one of us was going to puke.
I'll tell you.
And that's what it is.
I'll tell you, though, there's nothing like whenever it's fucking cold and they say, you know what? They're going to make it rain on the inside. So they end up smoking you, which is making you do push-ups, set-ups. They just fucking beat the hell out of you that way. That's what they call smoking. They're making you push-ups, set-ups, flutter kicks, monkey fuckers, everything. They just start cycling you through all these exercises, and you're doing them over and over and over, and you don't get any break until it's cold outside and there's so much humidity in the air because you're all breathing hard and you're having to do all this stuff that it starts actually legitimately raining on the inside of a building. They've made them do that before. So, I mean, yeah, you have to pay your due. It doesn't matter if it's in the military. It doesn't matter if it's in wrestling. It doesn't matter if it's in football. If it's something like that, then you're going to get hazing. You're going to get hazing. You know what I'm saying? And that is to a degree to protect business, to see if you're mentally prepared. I understand it because I've been through it. Kev understands it because he's been through it. But I don't even know if they even do that anymore. Do they even do any kind of real hazing? I'm sure they don't in the military. I'm sure that's a thing of the past.
I think that's a thing of the past. I think the football still has hazing. I know wrestling, when I did it, it had hazing. And then when my friend, who's like a young brother to me, when he was wrestling there for a while, they were still doing hazing. So I don't know if they still do hazing on a professional wrestling setting, but I can tell you this much. Another video they did, and I can't seem to find it because I think it was on Facebook and stuff, but they were talking about, they were on a podcast. Well, she was on a podcast, and she was basically, and you could tell that these two guys, they didn't know what to think because they're here they are, they're professional wrestling fans. They're talking about the indie scene in New York and New Jersey, and they're talking about that. And here she comes in there, and she's bad-mouthing the indie wrestlers and sitting there saying, well, I know I pissed off some people on my show, and, I'm Kate the Empire Jones. I'm great. I'm this. These people can't light a finger with me. And that's the problem with Matt and Kate is you could never find out whether or not they were staying in character or they were being real about it. And when you live a gimmick 24/7 a day, 7 days a week, it's hard to adjust about whether or not they're being real or whether or not they're being truthful about it.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know because I don't know what their gimmick is. To be honest with you, I honestly don't know their gimmick as far as it goes in their product.
I'll tell you this much, Poston. I know you like Star Wars, so I'm going to throw this out at you.
Don't.
Well, I mean. Well, the comic side of what I'm about to say here. Matt calls himself Matt the Jedi Jones. But when he comes out to the ring, he comes out to the fucking Imperial March instead of a Jedi stuff.
Well, I guess, technically, Darth Vader was a Jedi. He was just a dark Jedi. So I guess he's supposed to be a heel Jedi. Like, that would be cooler. Heel Jedi.
Cool. Yeah.
You know. Um, uh, uh, so I mean, yeah, you know, I guess it works. I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I'm not, but that would be Brad. Brad's a big Star Wars fan. You know, it's hard to believe I'm even in the wrestling community with as many Star Wars fans that are professional wrestling fans today. But no, I never was. I was more of a Star Trek guy. But then again, I was in the Navy too, and I understand a lot of the ranks and stuff like that. Yeah, live long and prosper. But yeah, I was more of a Star Trek fan. And what's Kate's gimmick?
She's called Kate the Empire Jones.
Empire.
When she comes out to the ring, she throws her hands up and then does this little strut, and it almost kind of reminds me of a Charlotte Flair because I think that's one of her favorite wrestlers. She didn't really grow up. She didn't grow up with wrestling like the rest of us. She only started watching wrestling around 2018. So
the Empire Jones. Man, that's kind of an odd couple there. And I mean, I get it if it was like the Empire, like the Imperial Empire from Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, where she was kind of like dressed up as like a sexy stormtrooper, maybe. I would get it, you know. But, you know, it's a Star Wars, you know, Matt's trying to be Darth Vader. I get it. I dig it, bro. And Kate's trying to be Charlotte Flair. I don't understand exactly how that works. But I don't really even know Charlotte's gimmick, so
I don't really know Charlotte's gimmick.
I don't know. I could be way off the mark here, so
I just think Charlotte Flair is just a rude and crude woman who thinks she's better than everybody else, and that's kind of how they come off on there. And I don't know whether or not they're faking it or if that's really truly how she feels, that she's feel like she's better than everybody else. She did a promo once where she was talking about the women of wrestling and talking about how she can beat like these girls in wrestling. I'm sitting there thinking, if you really think you can get into the ring and beat Ronda Rousey, you really think you can get?
I don't know, because people can't tell whenever I get into my little kayfabe thing if I'm in kayfabe or not. They can't tell. There's like no difference. And I mean, you know, I'm selling, so I mean, there's something to be said about that, I guess. But yeah, I honestly, like I said, you know, I saw your thing, but I subbed to him. But it, like I said, to me, it was kind of like, is this kind of like an EFED thing? Is this kind of something that, you know, like Andre Corville, who was in the comment section, I don't know if he's still watching, that's a little bit different because he's doing legitimate independent wrestling.
Yeah.
So, you know, I could see those guys and say, you know, yeah, you know, I could see that person in a ring in a match with somebody else. You know, she's very, you know, one of the girls that was on one of these shows lives like 10 miles from me. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, she lives like close to me. But yeah, well, like his Women of Wrestling, he's been doing a lot of the Women of Wrestling. He did a lot with the Canadian wrestling shows and stuff like that with Matt Hart and stuff like that. Yeah, I have gotten into it. You know, me and Dark Horse have gotten into it with the Hart family a little bit over Teddy. But yeah, you know, I would, you know, try to watch that and try to support that because you want to support, you know, competition to the WWE. And so you want to pull for these guys and you want to watch them a little bit. But whenever I see their show, it's like, you know, it just felt like an EFED to me, I guess. And since I've been through EFEDs and I've had, you know, I am, you know, kind of like bad, bad, you know, instances of being in an EFED and whatnot, and, you know, coming in and trying to contribute, and then all of a sudden all the prima donnas come in, and then they start, you know, going back and forth and claiming this and that and starting making everything over dramatized. It was like, okay, you know, it just kind of turns you off a little bit. The concept for an EFED is actually not a bad idea. It's actually a pretty good idea. If you can get the right people involved, if people are willing to go ahead and do their roles, if somebody gets hot and somebody gets interesting, if everybody's willing to go ahead and allow that person to go ahead and get some interest into an EFED, these EFEDs would work a lot better. You know what I'm saying? But that never happens in any of the E-Feds that I see. It's always, you'll have a group of guys that'll be those guys and they'll watch out for each other, and then they'll, you go into it, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, all these other people that are, thinking that they're big hotshots, will put the titles on themselves, and then it just, I don't know. You'll get a lot of drama, and it's like, oh, okay, well, and then it always collapses, and then somebody shuts the channel down.
Well, see, I came up with a really cool idea, and I think might get Steven Rose on board with this with you, and this is about your little WWE takeover. And I think this would be a really awesome idea. When the new game comes out, you're going to have the GM mode. What if, instead of being a GM of WWE or being a GM of this, you be a GM of NWA Power? And we can actually draft our actual roster of past and present and future wrestlers. And then, or I could be in charge of Impact, or Steven can be in charge of something like that. And just kind of we do an ultimate draft.
Doing a territory type system?
Yeah. And doing a kind of doing an ultimate draft. Steven gets his roster, he drafts who he wants. We draft anyone from the past, present, and future. Then I get who I want. You get who you want. And I saw this the other day because the NBA was doing it on the 75 greatest NBA players, and they were doing this mock draft and stuff like that. And I thought it was a really cool concept.
Yeah, I saw that 75 greatest players, and I was like, yeah.
There's some people that were missing.
I was like, I've watched basketball for years. I've played basketball for years. And, I'm like, okay, I don't know what you're basing this on, but it's not expertise for sure. It's definitely conjecture. But, yeah, it is what it is. So that's why so many people argue with it, is because it's not based on any kind of real metric. It's just based on conjecture pretty much. And my top 10 would have certainly been different, but
here's something too with this whole situation. The real reason why me and Mel was not going to get into the ring is because I'm not going to drive somewhere 8 hours out of my day just to lose a match. That's just something I don't do. Especially, and I had a couple ideas for my debut, and me and that guy Jay, who Superstar Xavier Michaels is a great guy. He's an independent wrestler. He does things for them. But me and him, he loves the territories like we do. He grew up with that stuff. And, me and him came up with an awesome idea on how to bring me in twice. And Matt went away from it. And he wrote me an email going, hey, how about a tag match? Me and Kate versus you and Mel. And I'm sitting there thinking, let me tell you something right now. The stuff that I've taught Mel and the stuff that I taught myself, we would kill you. That's I'm being honest. I mean, that guy's like a 170 pounds of soaking wet, and I would be throwing him around like Brock Lesnar. Yeah.
Because you're pretty close to my height, right? You're like 6'1", right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm like 6'3", so I mean, I'm sorry. It would be kind of harder for me to work with a smaller guy. I already know it, especially at my age, because I'm not a young guy anyway. Mm-mm. So, I would have to put all my weight on you. And if I did that, now I have fought bigger guys than me. So, fighting those little guys. Yeah. I remember whenever I was in the Navy, right. And I knocked a guy out, and we were boxing, right? Somebody had bought some boxing gloves, and we had a little court area where we were doing boxing and stuff like that. And, I'm 6'3", and this guy was probably 5'7", 120 pounds with bricks on his feet, soaking wet. If you tied him to a tree, it'd still be 120 pounds. And this kid was like, oh, I want to box you. And I was kind of reluctant at first, but I'm like, okay, fine, fuck it. I'll put on the boxing gloves and I'll go a few rounds. And ultimately, I had the reach, so he had to get inside on me. Well, I was trying to play around with him a little bit. I wasn't going that hard. I wasn't trying to hurt nobody, because Lord knows I don't want a court martial, because I just busted this kid's nose.
Yeah.
Whenever, And so I was trying to play around with him. I wasn't throwing that hard. I was just kind of jabbing and throwing around. Well, he walked into one of my jabs trying to come in, and I knocked his ass out. And everybody's like, oh, okay. Well, they had to put the gloves up. And a lot of the reason is because I was a taller guy. It's not because, like, Kev is seriously trying to injure you. It's just that, he's a independent wrestler. And, if you're a smaller guy, this is why I'm not a very, very big fan of everybody that's a small wrestler fighting the bigger guy. You have to be in there for years, and you have to really understand and be, have the ring awareness to do something like that. Because, a smaller guy, it's really easy for a bigger guy to hurt a smaller guy, not even trying to, by accident. So, yeah, if he's a smaller guy that you said he's about 170 pounds, then yeah, you could do some, if he's just one of these guys who toys around with doing the backflips and isn't really trained in ring awareness, then yeah, you could hurt him pretty easy. And I know Mel's pretty tall too, isn't she?
She's 5'7", and the one thing about Mel too is that when she went to the gym with me, she was a beast. When I taught her wrestling, she became a beast, and then when I taught her boxing, she became even more of a beast. And I can already tell you right now, Mel's got a crazy side to her, and if that was to happen and they were to get in the ring, Mel is going to outshine. Mel's idea is to make everybody look as good as possible. That was her first, foremost, everything. So I already know that if we came up there, it would have been a one and done situation, because even if we lost that tag match, Mel would have outshined him, and we wouldn't have been welcome back. I noticed.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with these people and whatnot, so I mean I can't from that perspective. But like I said, I've had a whole bunch of smaller guys try to start shit with me and stuff, or and I'm like, man, dude, you don't want that. Even as like whenever I was working security, you have to have some sort of presence, and you'd always have like littler guys try to sit there until they, come to the reason that, yeah, you're probably not going to win this battle. Like I said, especially since, you really don't know exactly how Matt would even, how he's going to be in the ring. Because, I mean, y'all really don't train together.
Nope.
He doesn't know how you would be. You don't know how he would be. And so, whenever
from what I hear, Poston, they do like when they're in the ring, they don't really go through a flow match. They kind of stop and shoot, edit and shoot. And me being the way I am, me being older and a bigger guy now, with my adrenaline going, that would suck, because once you have to stop and your adrenaline is stopped, everything starts to hurt after that. So it's like you're locked up on that point. I'm like, look, I got to be loose. So if you're going to do a stop, shoot, it's not going to work for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a momentum thing. And this is one of the things with the current job that I work at. Object in motion wants to stay in motion, and object at rest wants to stay at rest. You're doing more damage to your body by, stopping and then starting again.
And that's my biggest thing with that. I didn't want to be a part of that. And then they had some drama stuff going on with other people they worked with in the past. I didn't want to be involved in that. You know me, once it's a drama thing, I'm like, I'm out of here. I don't want it. Don't want to be a part of it. You guys can fight with each other. I don't care.
Yeah, it's non-productive. I mean, and I mean, I'm sure it was like this back in the days in wrestling.
Oh yeah.
But everybody knew their spot. If a Disco Inferno doesn't accept it that he's a jobber, then he doesn't decide to get these people over that he needs to get over. And then they don't move on up. You know what I'm saying? Like a Diamond Dallas Page or a Chris Jericho. they relied on guys like Disco Inferno, just like they did, relied on your, each other to get over and whatnot.
Yeah. And the biggest thing with this, the only reason why I made a video about it is because when I saw her response on it, I've been letting it go for a little bit. I've seen a couple of her interviews where she's talked bad about indie wrestlers, and because indie wrestlers will talk bad about them and will shit on their stuff, and then they think the indie wrestlers are jealous because indie wrestlers are breaking their backs for $20-$30 a match while they're making custom wrestling videos and they have a Patreon and they have all these membership stuff and they're making money, while basically, as she put it last night on a private video, that she makes money while she sleeps and while everybody else is working a 9-to-5 job. So,
but how much money do you make? I mean, I saw, where they're living at and stuff. Yeah, that was like bush beer that you were drinking, not like wine. It's not like fucking, I mean, you're not living in the Ritz. I mean, you're probably making a living. I'm not going to sit there and deny that, but, is it any different than these indie guys are probably living at the end of the day? Probably not much different. And I'm just being real. I mean, I don't see this living that you're talking about, in the video that you made. So, I meant, while you're sitting there pointing at these guys and trying to emasculate them because of your show, make sure you're having more success at your show. Don't worry about what they say, because Lord knows how many people shit on me all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How many people fucking target me all the time? Hell, I had the whole fucking wrestling community coming at me alone.
We're posting.
Yeah. Fucking the summer of fucking Polston. And that's all they would do is sit there 8 hours, 2 hours here, 8 hours there, 3 hours there, 8 hours. Fucking a whole goddamn day of a video just dedicated to me with everybody in the YWC, and then they get mad at me. You're not making any response. I'm not watching any of your videos. Your whole damn video would take up an entire fucking my 1 day off a week that I get. At the time, I didn't let it bother me. Why? Because I was working. I was making money. I was, trying to keep up my lifestyle. And whenever I did videos, I wanted to do videos on Impact. I wanted to develop the characters like, Sleeper taking over. I know you remember Sleeper taking over. I had a bunch of characters.
Response.
Yeah. And I was doing the video editing. And I remember I would tell Dark Horse, because Dark Horse would get frustrated because I wouldn't do as many. It takes, it probably doesn't take as long now, but back then it would take fucking forever to edit a video. You know what I'm saying? And I used to do those parody videos and those editing videos that I used to do. And it would take, sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. And, to make one video. And that video may only be about 15 minutes. I mean, if you think that you're going to go out there, I remember, and I don't know if you remember this, I used to think the shit was so fucking hilarious, but me and Big Kev, and I'm sure that you've probably met Big Don Banks before, right? You're familiar with Don Banks. Now, Don Banks was a semi-professional boxer, you know what I'm saying? And he decided he was going to open up a YouTube channel. And he did this too, but, I laughed at him because I could understand what he was doing. But he tried to do the same thing. He tried to make it seem like he was living this big, extravagant lifestyle. And for him, it was a gimmick. It wasn't being real. But I remember he took this calico cat and he shows this to the camera. And he goes, "You see what this is? This is money. Something you don't have." And I'm like, "No, it's a cat. That's what it is. You have to feed it." But yeah, I mean, you can lose a lot of respect that way too, if you're serious about it. So, I mean, you focus on your product, and yeah, you're probably, about, you're making about, like, say, we'll say $3,200 a month right now, but you keep contributing and you keep investing into it until you get to that point to where you could live comfortably, and where, you don't have to worry about the haters pretty much, because like I said, I'll get haters. I still got people hating on me. Every once in a while I'll do a video on them, but how much effort I put into that. You know how serious I take that, right?
Honestly, it's kind of one of those things. I think that when they do these custom videos, it's from fan requests, and then they will charge them 50 or $100, and then you have the Patreon, you have the memberships where it's $10, $30, $100, and then YouTube they have like the membership thing there too, and then they have their own clothing store, and I think they probably do make a little bit more than any wrestlers do, but to brag about it though is, I mean, me and Mel, when we did videos back in the day, we made some money about it, but we still kept our jobs.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not enough to sit there and say that you're, making all of this money and try to rub it in their faces, because that's clearly not the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Now, like I said, are they in character now? Is this a character arc? And like I said, if it is a character arc, there's nothing wrong with that. But at least, if I'm going to go ahead, right, and say, do this gimmick, right, I'm going to at least invest a little bit, get some nice clothes, get some wine glasses, section off a corner of my room, make it look like, something that, I am successful. But yeah, you could at least.
The great Duke Botters is in the house in the comment section.
That's Duke and the Dallas Cowboys. Man, let's get revenge on the San Francisco 49ers. They screwed us. The refs fucked us.
On a different note, Troy Aikman left Fox. Now he's going to be on Monday Night Football.
Well, he can come back and lead us to another Super Bowl if he wants to. I'm just saying, putting it out there. I'll be okay with that.
But the biggest thing too is, I have to give you props though. We got to talk about that for a second. I give you props because you have stuck with the Rams all season long.
Yeah. Yep.
And you picked the Rams to win this thing.
Actually, I picked the Browns to win,
but
I had the Rams in the Super Bowl. But whenever the Browns went out, then it was I knew that the Rams were going to win. And the reason why is because I go for defense in a running game. And the Rams had the best defense left. You know what I'm saying? Right in the playoffs. So yeah, I had it at the beginning of the season, before the season even began. I don't know if it was on your channel. I don't know if it was on Steven Rose's channel. I haven't been able to find the video. But if you go back, whatever football prediction video that I did, I said, looking at it, I knew that the Steelers were going to get in. I knew the Steelers were going to be in. Big Ben's last year. There's no way that the Steelers were not going to be in the playoffs. I didn't think that they would do much in the playoffs, but I knew. So it came down to it, and I was like, man, I picked the Browns, but whenever I got to the Bengals, I was like, shit. In the video, I was like, I really want to pick the Bengals to win this whole division. And I said, don't be surprised if they do, but I'm going to pick the Browns to win this division and go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to come out of the AFC North, but I was like, yeah, look out for the Bengals. Look out for them. So I should have just went with that. I had that good feeling whenever I was doing it. Everybody was shitting on Jamar Chase. And I was like, looking at the draft, and Sanchez Clark is a friend of mine, and I would talk to him. I'm like, look at what Cincinnati picked up in the draft. Here is the people that I liked in the draft, and Cincinnati got a lot of them. And I was like, man, they're going to be a lot better than people think they are. Of course, everybody was talking about Penei Sewell. And so I was like, they're going to be good, dude. They're going to be good. They're going to be competitive. They're not going to be a pushover like everybody thinks they are. Even the Bengals fans thought they were going to be pushovers. But I couldn't go against the Browns because they have a good running game. I like Nick Chubb. He would have been my pick over Zeke Elliott. I wouldn't have picked Zeke Elliott. I would have got DeForest Buckner, and then I would have drafted Chubbs or Cook, one of those guys, later. I would have, not got Zeke. And so, I went with the Browns because of their defense, pretty much, in their running game. That's exactly why I went with the Browns.
No, I mean, that's the thing. when you know, and I messed with Dashy. I'm not gonna lie, I messed with Dashy because he was getting really, really upset because the Bengals were losing, and he basically was going, "It's a back." You know,
Not Dashy.
you had to rub it in his face a little bit because that's just.
Dashy would never get outraged over the Bengals.
Well, he basically was sitting there thinking, "I deserve to have my Lombardi trophy." You know, it's like I don't remember seeing you playing.
Yeah,
You know,
Dashy did it all. He was everything on that team. Dashy throws to Dashy. Dashy catches the ball. Touchdown, Dashy. Yeah.
oh, by the way, I'm gonna do this Madden thing here soon where I'm gonna put like people on their teams. Um, and Dashy doesn't know this, but I'm gonna put him on like the Browns or the Steelers. And
Put him on the 49ers. Put him on the Rams.
Rams. Woo! He'd be like, "It's fuck you, Jim, you son of a bitch." But yeah, Matt Emmerich, Duke Waters wants to be a free safety on the Cowboys, so I got him on the Cowboys. Got Matt Ogden and Nick Fargo on the Packers.
Well, that means that if I'm on the Cowboys, I had to play wide receiver. Why? Because Duke Bothers took my position on defense.
Unless I put him as a free safety and you as a strong safety.
I can probably do, but I was a free safety in high school, so that's
or I can put you as free safety and put him as strong safety.
There you go. We can switch around. You can be strong safety. I can be free safety.
That'd be the best two safety tandem in the league.
Yeah.
Ah, gosh, I wouldn't want to throw against the Cowboys at that point. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad Poston came on here with me on this, but it's just before I wrap it up, I just want to let everybody know that it's not necessarily an attack on the wrestling shows, not an attack on Matt and Kate. It's just when you say something like that and you keep doing videos and you're dissing professional wrestling, you're dissing the indie wrestling scene, you're dissing the people that have been there before you that paved the way. If there was no Hulk Hogan, no Vince McMahon, and no WrestleMania, and them putting the belt on Hogan, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now too, because you say that they're pretty much Attitude Era fans. I'm going to tell you right now.
Well, Matt she's more of like, I just came onto the scene in 2018 watching everything now.
Okay. So he's an Attitude Era fan, and she's a, post-mortem wrestling fan after wrestling had already died.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. The stuff in the Attitude Era was ripped off from WCCW, and it was ripped off from the territory. So I meant, all of that stuff that you liked was from the traditional wrestlers, which came from your NWAs, your WCCWs. It was a formula. These guys were already built by the time they got into the Attitude Era. Stone Cold had already went through WCCW. Undertaker had already went through WCCW. These guys had already went through the various territories, whether it was through Smoky Mountain, AWA, and various other promotions before they even got to, some of them even went to ECW and whatnot before they even got to WWE. So they were already developed by the time they got there. And so everything that you were watching in the Attitude Era, a lot of us already knew these people, And so, yeah, it's nothing like it is today, to where they bring in somebody from ROH and these guys aren't really developed, and then they've got to run and develop these guys and hope that they work out in the ring. It's it's a whole different ball game out there right now. And the guys that were doing if the guys were developed correctly, particularly in this, like I said, this is a problem with the promotions right now. If they were developed correctly and all their hard work was paying off, like right now, I don't even understand why anybody would want to be an independent wrestler, because the business is dying slowly. So I meant you're going out there and you're putting your body on the line right now. And, you know, what is the highest you can achieve right now? There's not that much of an audience in professional wrestling. And a lot of it is because the flag bearers, which are WWE and AEW, have no concept of how to develop talent right now.
You know, also Duke Botter said, "Book it, Kev, make it happen." So he wants me to put you as a free safety and him as a strong safety. So that works. I can do that. But also, I'll let you know too, Duke. You'll get your FWE WrestleMania because I know I made it last year and I'm now finally starting to edit it. But you will get your Kenny Omega versus Duke Botters at the FWE Fantasy WrestleMania.
Put the sharpshooter on him.
But I do
Make
have
him
a
tap.
message. I do have a message here from the Macho Man Randy Savage. Hopefully you can hear this, Poston.
Yeah, you want to hear the Macho Man? Yeah. Then I'm going to the top of the rope and I'm going to hit Hogan's butt cheeks. Yes. Have a little fun with this one. Yeah. Can you dig it? I'm going to have fun with Linda. And then I'm going to fuck her in the ass. Have a good time.
Is this from the grave?
Yeah, the cream of the crop. Yeah. What are you doing over there with your YouTube videos? You know, you gotta get the cream all over her titties like the Macho Man does.
So, is he gonna get the cream all over them titties? is that what?
I have to give credit though. That Macho Man impersonation was from Big Remington.
Not
That's
Rimbo.
probably the best Macho Man impersonation I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Get the cream in the crop. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. Go over there, drop the elbow on her, make sure the Undertaker shits on the pants. You. I mean, that's just. But then again, though, we will be getting some interviews soon. Inside the Square Circle, there's going to be an interview with my and Poston's favorite, John Cena. You know, he's coming soon.
Yeah, you know, he's been a little cantankerous here lately because he just not enough people are selling for him, and you know, as far as like the audience isn't selling for him in any of his movies here lately. So
his show, The Peacemaker, they had the Justice League show up there at the end, and he pretty much said, you know, fuck you, Aquaman, you fuck fish.
Yeah, he probably said, you better sell to John Cena. That's probably what he said. I can imagine the conversation in my head right now. Of course. He knows I'm a Superman fan. That's what he's doing. This is a troll on me. You know that, right?
It is. Yeah.
It's a fucking obvious troll on me that he fucking went ahead and did this Peacemaker shit and said, I'm going to shit all over Superman because Polston likes him. That's why he fucking did it. You know that. In fact, I guarantee you the conversation went like this. They said, hey, we want to bring in a guy named the Peacemaker, and it needs to be a bigger guy. And we were thinking, what better guy? And, you know, DC is probably like, oh, yeah, you know, it's going to be kind of hard to get John Cena. And John Cena probably found that motherfucker before he even finished the conversation. Oh, I get to shit all over Superman? I know Polston likes Superman, so I'm going to screw with Polston. I know that's what he was saying the whole fucking time he was signing that contract.
I think there needs to be a no holds barred match between you and John Cena.
I think there needs to be one too. I think that needs to happen.
I mean, Cena's been a little pain in the ass for a while.
He's been a real he fucked up two of my fucking, you know, I go and watch Fast and the Furious and he fucked that up. I like I said, I think the dude I think he's just gonna fuck up I wouldn't be surprised if he went into the fucking, and I really shouldn't say this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't show up on John Wick in a fucking John Wick movie, man, because you know that kind of frightens me now that I say it out loud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Elizabeth, come over here and touch my wiener. Yeah. The cream is coming. Madness is coming.
It sounds like Macho Man is having a pretty good fucking time in this afterlife, isn't he?
Like Arnold. Sit there, Macho Man, get the cream. It's like me, I'm coming all the time. Bitches like the Snowball. NWO, Black and White Arnold.
I had a square and a rectangle.
Yeah, and then, a problem is too is and Stone Cold mask keeps coming up in my when I want to buy something from Amazon, eBay, and a Stone Cold mask pops up because I think Stone Cold wants me to talk about some shit.
Yeah, Stone Cold's pretty cool too. That's one of your good drinking buddies. You know?
Yes. We're drinking buddies, and his real name is Steve Williams, which is my last name. So
yeah.
I'm not saying there's a relation there. I'm just saying that maybe it's just.
I'm just sitting there saying is that it really just isn't fair because your buddy from professional wrestling is Stone Cold, Steve Austin that lives here in Texas close to me, and I get fucking John Cena from Massachusetts. He's probably closer to fucking you, but that's my buddy from professional wrestling, and all he does is go into movies that I like and ruin them.
Hey, you know what though? I wanted to tell you this during that interview I had with Matt and Kate. Matt has been wanting a dream match. For some reason, he wants to beat the crap out of Braun Strowman. And I'm sitting there thinking, if you get Braun Strowman to come on the wrestling show, do you really honestly think Braun Strowman's going to lose to you?
Oh, and not only that, anybody in the real wrestling community, any kind of casual, will fucking roast you nonstop, including me. If you were to bring in somebody like Braun Strowman, and then you're not going to put over Braun Strowman, everybody would be making fun of you for real. I'm just being real. I get it. A lot of these guys are big Daniel Bryan fans. But look at how bad I roasted Daniel Bryan for doing exactly what the fuck Daniel Bryan did, burying talent and shit. So, I mean, yeah, that would be cringy if he did that. That would be really, 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 really cringy.
And I think that one of Kate's dream matches was she wanted to wrestle Daniel Bryan.
That would be probably just as cringy. That'd probably be cringy too.
I mean, I don't know if Bree will appreciate that, but
Yeah, neither do I. That'd be interesting though.
But I will say this much though. As far as the roster goes, they do have a really good roster of people. There's two guys on there who are in the independent wrestling scene. Courtney is just a really good person, and Courtney needs to be pushed more. I mean, I want to see more of Courtney.
I do say that because I've seen that interview, and like I said, the dedication she has to the character. Yeah, it is a little bit kind of cliche-ish of like a Harley Quinn type character, and that kind of it's not her fault, mind you, but that kind of gets overplayed by every female these days. But she does it pretty good, and she's willing to put in that work and that effort. Then yeah, I give it a solid pass just because she's committed to it, and she clearly is dedicated to it. So if you're willing to put in that effort, I could appreciate it.
Well, I was telling her once that we were talking, and I said, look, once you establish yourself in the ring and you establish stuff, you should start coming to the ring with a straight jacket and with the Hannibal Lecter face.
Yeah, that would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I told her that. I was like, that will be amazing. And Duke Botters wants a dream match. Duke Botters versus the Beautiful People in a spit-swapping makeout match.
Well then, wait a minute. Yeah, I want to tag with Duke on that match too. You know what I'm saying? And maybe even throw in Rebel in there, because she's a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. We can't forget about Rebel.
Well, since Mel's walked out, I can honestly say this now. If there was ever a makeout, if you guys bring in Mickey or Tessa Blanchard, let me know and I'll join.
Oh, okay. A 3-on-5. Let's make it happen.
Duke Potters, Big Kev, and the Prodigal Hill versus the Beautiful People and Tessa Blanchard.
And Rebel.
And Rebel. I mean, why? I look at it too real fast before we go. The one thing I would look at it too is why is Tessa Blanchard not on AEW, or why is she not on WWE? Is beyond me.
Well, it's and I'll say this. This is the problem with A&W wrestling. Is that they try to market to the Twitter crowd. There's no audience on Twitter. Everybody on Twitter is trying to market for themselves. So marketing to people on Twitter is kind of a waste of time. But the deal is that Tessa Blanchard went with that whole thing of they were trying to accuse her of being racist and this bully type person and whatnot. Of course, they never show any evidence, and it all looks like sour grapes by Allison Kay. And this is one of the things that got me kicked off of Twitter. It's because I was going back and forth with these people and whatnot. And the sheer fact that I think that a lot of them were jealous that she got a world heavyweight title in Impact Wrestling. I think that that's one of the reasons. So it's hard to get her on a roster of females because they're all kind of bitter for, her breaking those barriers and whatnot. But I mean, like I said, who else is going to do it? I like Mickey, but I wouldn't have Mickey do that. I wouldn't have
like
Mickey
this girl from Impact Wrestling. I do like Jordan Grace. I think she's.
I don't.
No, I like the fact she's wrestled some men though, but I do still like Rosemary.
Yeah, Rosemary, I do. Even though we've had our little falling out and we've had our little arguments, I still respect her as an entertainer. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like the insane Courtney. What's her?
Peterson.
Okay. Yeah, the insane Courtney Peterson. She's kind of similar to that. The dedication that she puts into that character. She does it very, very well. And there's probably a few women that could probably do exactly what they do. So I can appreciate that.
Well, I can honestly tell everybody here, the idea was if me and Mel were going to do the wrestling show, we wanted to do like a horror gimmick. I know Mel wanted to do a little bit of what from the House of Thousand Corpses, she wanted to be a little bit like Baby and do some evil stuff. And I was going to be like what we were talking about on text. I was actually going to be
Captain Spaulding.
Yeah, I was going to be mean as shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was sitting there saying is that, that kind of gimmick would be pretty fucking awesome for you guys. I think y'all could do it too.
So I'm going to let everybody know here. You guys I'm going to put the video in the description. So any of y'all who have not seen the video that what we're talking about, watch it until about the 8-minute, 50-second mark. That's when they start talking about Roman Reigns and Bruno Sammartino and Brock. And then that's when they switch into The Undertaker. And if you love professional wrestling, you see what they say about Undertaker and then what they say about Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold. It's going to fucking flip your shit. I mean, it's one of those things where I would never go up to a guy like Hogan or Ric Flair and go, you know what? I'm better than you.
Well, I mean, what really made me cringe was they were kissing Matt Riddle's ass. And it was like, all he does is come out and go, bro. I mean, it's like, God, I mean, at that fucking point in time, you might as well have like, what was that guy that used to come out with Lodi? You know what I'm saying? Have Lodi go over, put the title on Lodi from the fucking flock in Raven's flock, the guy with the fucking signs, like Dark Horse used to say. You might as well roll with that, because that's about the same thing. It's the same way that I feel about a lot of these guys that artificially get on behind these guys and these kind of like cheap, dumbed down gimmicks. It's kind of like the New Day. When they put the title on Kofi, and I was like, I wasn't a big fan of that neither. And it's because Kofi was nothing more than the New Day gimmick where they were putting fucking unicorn horns on their head. And it was, the Big E Langston thing. Do I think that Kofi and Big E Langston have talent? Yes, I do. Did I think that they deserved the title being in the New Day? I think one of them should have turned heel. I think I could have probably done more with it. But, them being this goofy New Day character, wasn't a fan at all. Yeah. It's kind of just cringy type humor and stuff. And so, like, you get a guy like Randy Orton, of course, he's going to demand attention. A guy like Roman Reigns is going to command attention. A guy like Braun Strowman that Matt wants to, bury, will get you attention on your show. You got to get out of your own way, though. But a guy like Braun Strowman,
I have a really big fantasy book. If the wrestling show can get La Parka,
oh, yeah.
I'm there. If you can get La Parka, I will show up and I will fight La Parka.
Yeah, La Parka's the fucking man, though.
I know. I mean, like, now, if they can ever work out a deal with
Juventud
Impact Wrestling and you guys get Moose, I would be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, if you get Braun Strowman, right? First off, you use Braun Strowman as a monster heel, and then if Matt wants to go ahead and eventually beat Braun Strowman, you go ahead and feed half your roster to Braun Strowman, and that'll get you over. You know what I'm saying? Because it'll mean something when you beat him. But if you bring in Braun Strowman just to go ahead and bury him immediately, well, then that's not going to do anything for you, and it's not going to do anything for Braun. And then the wrestling fans are going to look at you, and they're going to not be interested. See, I'm with the Batman fan here, and I'm a Superman fan. So,
well, here's the thing. I'm just letting everybody know. Next week, the Batman movie comes out. I will be doing a review because me and Mel are going to see it early. So we'll see how good it is. I don't have really high expectations, but we'll see how it is.
And by the way, whenever you see fucking John Cena next week, if you get an interview next week, we I'll set it up. Whenever you see John Cena, you let his ass know that you're a Batman fan. And not only did he shit on Superman, my favorite character, you need to let him know that you just shit on Batman too. And you're a DC fan just like me.
I have a bone to pick with him because of time constraint. They took away Batman's part in that scene. Like, they actually cut Batman's scene out of that scene.
So he didn't even say Batman was worth it. So yeah, you really should take that up. Because I'm sorry. Whenever John Cena sees this, if John Cena sees this next week, you can go ahead and play this for him. I'm sorry, but what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing, man? I don't get it.
I'm actually gonna play him the video of this wrestling show thing where they were talking about Undertaker and stuff like that. But now here's the thing, though. John Cena might like them because Kate likes John Cena.
Oh, well, yeah. It's a defeated fucking effort then bringing him on right now. Good thing I didn't give him a link to this show, because then he'd be like, you better, she likes me. And I had to fucking hear that shit all the time.
Well, if anybody wants to know what John Cena really sounds like, I'm going to try to do as much as possible here. I know Poston knows it more than I do, but I will say this. It's like, you better not. You better sell to John Cena because Daddy Vince told me to.
Yeah, he's going to be over there all over that shit, flopping some fucking knob whenever he gets on there. He'll be sitting there promoting his new fucking movie and then talking about his Daddy Vince. And you'll have to hear that for a whole fucking episode, however long it is.
But anyways, I appreciate Poston coming on. I appreciate the guys' comments on there, from Duke to Andre to Big Rim. I appreciate those guys making their comments known. And if you guys see the video later, post your comments down below. Let me know what you guys thought about what they said about The Undertaker and HBK and Shawn Michaels and them kind of, Kate kind of pissing on the the world of professional wrestling and kind of pissing on the guys the men and women who paved the way for her to actually be able to do what she does for a living. So post your comments down below. I'll post a link there for you guys to see. Next week, I'm going to work on an interview to getting John Cena on here. And you're going to be seeing a comedy skit soon. You're going to see the Transformers as you've never seen them before. So that's coming up too. So I will say that. And then the FWE WrestleMania is coming up. We're going to be doing a Batman review with Mel. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You got anything else to add, Poston?
No, not really. Like I said, I'm not really affiliated with Matt or Kate or anything. +8, whatever the hell. But yeah, I saw the video because you sent it to me, and it's like, okay, well, you're a little bit out of touch. I mean, you're still trying to sell your product and whatnot. Yeah, you trying to shit on The Undertaker and Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels and whatnot. These are the fans you're looking to get invested in on your channel. These are the fans you're looking at. So, I mean, whenever you have this nonchalant attitude of professional wrestling, then the professional wrestling fans that have been professional wrestling fans for years, that have contributed probably billions and billions of dollars to the industry, are going to be less apt to invest in your product. Just.
Well, Duke Butter said that he will be at WrestleMania this year in Texas. So that's going to be pretty fun to see. And also, too, I will let you know that they really don't care too much about pro wrestling as much. They care more about their custom wrestling from fans who basically pay money, and the ones are like, I want to see Kate do leg lock. Those are the ones that they care the most about.
No, so just like a marginalized, they're more for like subs than they are for building up any kind of real revenue. It is what it is. Kind of like an E-Fed, like you said. It's something fun for them to play with.
But I want to head off here, and Poston's going to be gotten his stuff to do. And also, too, if any of y'all are sub to me, Steven Rose has got a new video talking about fat people and how they're and why are fat people assholes. I don't know why he's doing a video like that again, but it is what it is.